Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Findaway Productions with your co-hosts Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host here at the Coaching 101 podcast. That over there is Kenny Simpson. We are joined by the man with internet fame. I think you have more fame than us, Coach, honestly. Hog Football Chat, one of two. You know, I'm upset that we didn't invite your other counterpart. We could have got both of you in one show. I think he's froze.
I think he might have frozen there, Daniel. Yeah, hopefully we'll get him back. I know he's got
frozen.
Well,
we got Tony Shiffman on with us. Let's see what he said. We got.
Am I frozen?
Yeah, you're back now. Yeah, there he is. All right.
Is it Coach me or is it you guys?
I think it's you, dude, but that's okay. Welcome to the party. Hey, I tell you what, why don't you do your introduction real quick? Tell us who you are, where you're at, and kind of about all of your things. Maybe. Bear with us, folks, as we figured out the internet connection from Coach Shiffman. Let's see. All right, Coach. Hey, I'm going to let you try to maybe if you reboot.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, barely. Pretty delayed.
Yeah.
Maybe a reboot the computer.
Let me try. Give me a sec, guys. Sorry.
That's okay. This is called the internet age.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Happen. All right, as we wait for him, Coach Simpson, we are starting season 6 on the podcast, which is crazy. We're just over 2 years old, 100,000 downloads. You know, like it's been a lot of fun. We've done a lot of cool things, talked to a lot of cool guys. Excited to get Coach Shiffman on the podcast tonight. Season 6 is big for us. We finally picked up some sponsors besides ourselves. We've been self-sponsored besides Ace Sports. Of course, you know, if you aren't looking at working with Ace Sports yet, you're missing out. They're growing tremendously right now. I know they just installed some coaches in the Kentucky area. It's what we went up there a while back. I think there's some Louisiana reps now. Of course, Mark Bridges is still absolutely the guy to go to if you want to get set up. That is mark.bridges@acesports.com. That's the guy to go to if you want to get started. These are definitely people you want in front of your admin. Now's the time to start laying that path out. It's too late to get your board this year, most likely, but getting the plan in place, waiting on getting that board started next year. It's never too late to get started for that. So good stuff there. We'll go ahead and go through the rest of our sponsors here while we're waiting. We are now proudly sponsored by Team Builder, and a lot of you guys have been using Team Builder for your workouts, for running your weight room, and that's what they've been really well known for. This year, they're jumping into the practice scheduling, practice organization realm, and so you're going to see teambuilder.com/practice. You can go there and look now, and it should be live here in the next week or two. But that's like a one-stop shop to put in all of your practice plans. It's a lot like what we're doing in Google Sheets or something right now, but man, they've made it so much neater. You can go in and create folders with drills and how a diagram of that drill. You can record a video and tell younger coaches how to conduct that drill, what they're looking for, where their eyes should be, and then throw in old film of players running the drill from previous seasons. So I think they've got a lot of cool stuff going on over there, and they're still going to be improving. I got to go in a phone call with them the other day and look through the product, and I had a few things I said, hey, maybe this would help, right? We're just always going to be improving. But I think it's a great starting point if you're looking at a place to just let all your coaches go to one place and plan practice, and everything's kind of pre-laid out. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Who else we got now, Kenny? We've grown. Winning Edge Performance Analytics. The cool thing about Winning Edge, Coach contacted me with his analytics thing, and this is a live while you are in a game. You've got a guy in the booth, a guy on the sidelines with an iPad, and they're putting in stats as you go. And it's not like necessarily rushing yards, passing yards, etc. It's what formation they're in. What did they do on, first down, second down, third down? And it starts tracking all this and gives you reports as the game goes on. So you break past halftime, and now you can see what their third down tendencies are. You can do it after the first third down, honestly, but we know that you got to build up, a little bit of data to make tendencies matter. But then all of that gets pushed right into your huddle, and so you don't have to tag film when you're done. So you have a couple guys doing it during the game. They can work on the same play at the same time. They're putting in their stats. They're putting in all their data. You get to look a live look in the game what the opponent's trying to do to you or what you're doing. You can self-scout with it as well and then move all that data straight into huddle. So you don't have to show up on Saturday morning super early to tag out your film. It's pretty much already tagged. Or if you're a guy that stays late Friday night and tags film, it's already tagged out. They are offering a 20% off promo code to anyone that listens to the podcast. That code is 20 off coaching 101. So the numbers are all numbers. 20 off coaching 101. Get you 20% off this year. Should be a lot of help. We've done this before, Kenny, in our with teams, but man, we tried to use an Excel sheet for that or a Google Sheets, and it's like impossible. Everything's super wide and from one play to the next, and you're trying to track by down. It just gets crazy. They've absolutely kind of stepped us forward in the game of in-game analytics and really tracking what people are trying to do. Welcome back, Coach Shiffman. Glad you could join us, bud.
Nope.
Well, we may just have to push through without him. See if we can jump him on another night if we have to.
Cool.
We'll see how it works. Maybe he can jump in as we get a little bit later. Let's do our quote of the week, Coach, and then we'll push on.
Yeah. So quote of the week. Again, excited about season 6. So it's pretty impressive. It's been kind of a neat run, and hopefully we'll keep doing it. Daniel, we got a bunch of new ads. We'll try to make sure we shorten those as we go. We're trying to kill a little time so we can get there. He is. We can get the man, the myth, the legend finally on here.
I had to go for my phone, so
that's okay, man.
Obviously, my computer is not up to par, so I apologize.
Now we can see that arm tat you got going on.
There we go.
So yeah. I try to keep those things covered, but we'll go that way. There you go.
Is that the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, my parents sent me that. They always like to send me some free stuff now and again, so can't complain. Not going to turn down a free shirt.
Yeah. I told my daughter's dating a Washington Commanders fan, and I'm a Dolphin fan. So she started dating him. Of course, I made sure he was a fan before they were good. And then I said, guys like that you marry, because when they're loyal to a team that sucks that bad, they're going to be loyal to you. So you're a Bears fan. Yeah, I'd say the same thing there.
Well, and I married a Packers fan. Oh, so it's pretty rough in this house. Our first wedding anniversary was actually a day the Packers Bears played that day. So we didn't talk much that day. But my daughter's mixed. She's got some Packers gear, but she knows how to say bear down, and so she's I'm trying to raise her the right way.
There we go. It's good. Yeah. They need to win a little bit. So
we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, Coach, quote of the week, Daniel, you want that? And then we'll get started with Coach.
Yeah. You can knock out the quote of the week, man.
Yeah, no worries. So quote of the week's Tom Brady. So that probably makes all of us in this room mad because he didn't help any of our teams win. But Tom Brady says, he talks about ambition. Ambition in sports means you're never satisfied with good enough. It's about striving for excellence every single day. And of course, we're in the spring right now, so I've got all my little coach speeches I give all our upcoming sophomores. We all kind of have those. And we say in our program, the worst P word you can be is not the one you're thinking of right now, is potential. You're somebody who's full of potential. If we say that to you, what that's telling you, it should be telling you, is you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. We see what you can do, but you're not where you're supposed to be. And I think if we're about to talk about offensive line, every group has that. But what'll get you fired is 6'5", 320 that's soft as cotton. that will get you fired because they're over there going, why is that guy not in the game? Or why is he in the game? You're getting smoked. So talk a lot about potential in our program and how that's not a good thing. And I think that quote from Tom Brady kind of hits that nail on the head is wherever you are, let's be the best you can be.
Mike D, the referee, is just giggling right now. He's the only guy from Jersey I've ever heard admit he's from Jersey. So we'll give him a little leeway there, but apparently he's a Giants fan. The New Jersey Giants is a fan of Tom Brady. Of course, I guess when Eli knocks him out of the Super Bowl, kind of knocks him up, beats him up in the Super Bowl. Twice.
Yeah, as a Dolphin fan, I'm a big fan of Eli Manning. That saved our perfect season, by the way. So good job, Eli Manning, for having 2 good years your whole career.
There you go. That's tough. Well, Coach Schiff, man, without further ado, man, I will turn it over to you. Let you introduce yourself. Just kind of give us your elevator speech, where you are, who you are, what you're doing in football right now, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. So Tony Shiffman, just finished up year 18 of coaching. Kind of done it all over the place. Been an offensive line coach, been a head coach, been a coordinator. Just finished up a season at Kettle Moraine High School near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yeah, that's about it. Obviously, you wanted me to mention the Hog Football Chat. Co-host of the Hog Football Chat every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, talking about kind of all things offensive line. And it's been going on for I think a decade now or something like that. So since 2015, maybe. So it would be a decade. But yeah, so that's who I am. I post a little too much on Twitter and probably ruffle some feathers there, but I don't care. And I've stopped caring. So yeah.
That's what it's for, man.
I know. It's for having fun.
That's what
I know we're going to talk O-line, but I do want to, before we get to that, Dan, I do want to kind of talk about, Coach, you put materials out, you put stuff out, even if it be materials, you put stuff out for guys to kind of debate and discuss and do different things like that. So before we get into what we're really going to talk about, which is offensive line, tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly of football Twitter, in your opinion. The good, the bad, and the ugly of football Twitter.
The good is definitely the content and the relationships. Like I talked about off air with you guys. I wouldn't be here. Kenny, you and I have known each other for 6-7 years now. Daniel probably around the same though. So the relationship piece of that is definitely awesome. The bad is probably the guys who try to post make their hot takes that just get icy cold real quick, and they they don't necessarily learn their lesson. They're trying to be relevant by being kind of trolls, I guess, a little bit. The ugly, oh boy. I mean, you want me to? I can make a comment that ruffles some of your feathers, Kenny, but I don't want to do that.
Well, man,
the ugly, just to be funny and just to make you mad, the wing tee. So we'll say that. That's the ugly.
Oh yeah, I love it, Coach. I always laugh. I hope like in my mind on Twitter, I'm always just kind of like, I think it's kind of funny. Like the duo and zone, is there really? I know there's a difference, but I know it makes guys mad.
Yeah,
you do it with buck sweep or pin and pull, and I think it's funny. Like in my opinion, it's funny, and I think guys that get upset for real. And when you put yourself out there like you do, and like Daniel does, and like I do, I think you got to just take it with a grain of salt.
Well, it's even if because I don't post anything in seriousness. Like everything I post is tongue in cheek for the most part. A lot of memes, a lot of just silly things like that. But even if there's the old argument, buck sweep or pin pull, I still look at all the posts that people make and try to steal things from it. I'm still looking at all that stuff and trying to put my own twist on things. So that's part of it. It is fun. I think there are, like you said, there's a lot of people that take it a little too. No, I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a few people that take it a little too seriously sometimes. And it shouldn't be. I mean, come on, guys.
I think you said a lot of guys, and I think you're spot on. And it's my biggest takeaway from social media football is that everyone thinks their way is the way.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's terminology or scheme or the way that they, discipline players or what. Their way is right and your way is wrong, and there's no way around it. Like that's the funniest part to me is we can't all see that we're all just doing what we can, right? Like there's no right answer to this game. If there was, we would all be doing it exactly that way. It's just what works for you. What do you know? You coach what you know, in every single aspect. So that's my funny part is when we get into those arguments of who's the best.
Right. And it can be humbling too, right? Like I go back and look at some of the stuff I've said and kind of cringe a little bit, but it's again, we're all trying to just get better. We're all here to be better coaches, to be better people, to be, to make better men, to make, be good for our families and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, it's just a fun time. And like I said, I still probably tweet way too much stuff, but I don't know. I like to make people laugh. So that's about all it is.
I don't think there's any such thing as tweeting too much stuff. I think you're good, man. If you guys aren't already,
I can argue with you about that.
You jump into the Hog Football Chat on, would you say Monday nights at 8?
Yeah, Monday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, yeah. I
tried to steal your idea 100%. And I know there's like you guys, there's the Florida high school football, there's Texas high school football, which is a huge one. I tried to steal it for the other podcast, but it's too much, man.
Yeah. There's Texas is the original. I've talked about this on a bunch of different podcasts. Texas is the original. We jumped in. There's been a couple more that have, like Iron Football Chat was good. Alabama Football Chat has definitely taken off on Sunday nights.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Coach Mack used to do the Florida Football Chat, which I think no longer. But there's probably been 5 to 10 others that have sort of tried and fizzled out. And people have reached out to me all the time and asked me kind of how, and it's consistency. You got to, like, even if I can remember like the first Hog Football Chat when we had 17 people and I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then probably 2 weeks later we had like 5, including Jack and I as the hosts. And it was like, just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And eventually you kind of, it just clicks. And I mean, that was the way it was for us. I know, I still tell the story when Texas was going on, when Chris started everything, I didn't know if I could even participate. I remember tweeting from my house and my parents' house in Illinois. I was home on Christmas break. And I was like, hey, can I even do this? And he was like, yeah, of course not. I don't care. And so that's kind of, it was
ask permission.
I did. Well, I didn't know anybody. I mean, I was at that point, I was a Twitter rookie. So I didn't know, anything, and I was just wanting to talk football, watch the bowl games. So, but it's about consistency, staying with it. I mean, I can tell you a few times that we laid absolute eggs on the Hog Football Chat, and we just had to keep going, persevere, and stick with it.
Consistency is the answer. Like the podcast didn't. I mean, I can remember our first I don't know. It seems like 20 episodes. I bet we didn't have 500 watches total. You know what I mean? Like, and now we drop an episode and we got 1,000 downloads in no time. Like it's just the consistent. People got used to it being there. In fact, like I get busy sometimes and I don't get one out by Sunday morning at 6:00 and it's Monday or Tuesday morning just because life. And it's like when it finally drops, I mean, within 30 minutes, people are like blowing it up because, they've been waiting on it. So it's pretty cool. It's neat to see your consistency and your baby that you've nurtured kind of grow. It's a lot
for sure. Yeah, no doubt.
Well, sweet. Well, I tell you what, since we already did ads earlier, we're just going to skip right over that part. We're going to jump right into questions tonight. And maybe this is how we'll do season 6. We don't know. It's a good thing about seasons is you can change things up and see what works well. So let's jump right into part 1. And Coach Schiff will let you take this question out of the box here. So what do you do? We all know that like kids don't want to be O-line for whatever. Some do. Let's not act like every single kid doesn't want to, because I've had kids that are like, I'm not. This is what I love. I love this right here, just mauling people. But we also know that every offensive tackle in the land has wanted to be a tight end at one point, right? So what are we doing to make kids want to be O-linemen? How have you been successful with that?
I mean, you incentivize the hell out of it, right? Like hey, you guys are going to get to eat first. You guys are going to get to do this. You guys are going to get to do that. You get first crack at equipment. You get first crack at the the good shoulder pads. You get first crack at the good helmet. And you just sell it like that. You sell it. You sell you sell that it's important. You sell that it's the best. It's the best group amongst the big group of the team. You talk about that bond, you talk about the brotherhood within the position group, and you just sell it that way. You tell the kids it takes a special guy to do this. You're not going to get recognition. If you're okay with that, let's go. If you're not okay with that, so be it. We'll figure something out. But I always tell kids too. Would you rather be a fourth string tight end, or you want to start on the O line? Like, do you want to be a football player, or do you want to be on the football team? And so that's kind of the big thing that I try to sell kids with. And it doesn't always work, right? Like, I can give you plenty of examples of times it doesn't work, but I can give you a lot of more examples of times that it does work, and kids are really, really successful, and find out that they're pretty dang good at something they didn't think they'd be any good at. So it's tough. I think there is definitely, and because kind of with the social media thing, offensive line play is becoming cool. I think a little bit more than it was maybe 5-6 years ago, and so guys want to be part of that group a little bit more than they used to. So I think that's pretty neat. But it's you're right though. It's a special mindset. It's a certain kind of kid, and they figure it out quickly once they're there, because a lot of times they're a cerebral player, or they're they have to play smart because they lack a little bit of athleticism, or they're not big enough, or they're big enough, but excuse me, they're not fast enough, or something along those lines. So it takes a little bit of that, but it's usually once they get there, they fall in love, and then it's then you get to see the success.
I love talking to O linemen about, like, let's just say you got 2 or 3 good receivers. The odds of them getting a ball thrown to them on any single drive, I mean, what are they getting? 1 out of 10 plays or something, right? Like, cool, you're my deep guy. You're going to go deep.
Mm-hmm.
How often we actually throw in that ball? Almost never, right? For us, because we just don't have that kid. We don't have the dude that we're just going to chunk it up 2-3 times a series. So we're going to hit the underneath stuff. All right, so now my slot receiver's and like the guy that's getting it the most, but he's still not like the most important on the team. So I tell my O lineman, like, every single play, you're important. What you do matters every single play, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were a skinny kid out there at X receiver, 1 out of 10 matters. You're running, you're sprinting your tail off, and you better, because I'll replace you if you don't. You did it to kind of take somebody with you. And it's not that that's not important, but the ball's not coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
O-line, baby. Look, I don't care if it's run play, pass play, whatever. Whatever you do right now matters whether we succeed or not. And that's just like a cool place. I went to London, man, I don't know, 2012 or something. I did the Tower of London tour and all that. We learned about the beef eaters. And so that's what we've named O-linemen since, is like, O-linemen are going to be the beef eaters. And if you don't know that story, essentially it was the king's guard, and the king fed them beef, and everybody else were peasants, and they were eating grain and whatever, right? They were not very fit, not being very healthy, not being taken care of. But the king's guard, they were the most important people in the land, so they got fed that way. So we've always just named them beef eaters, and we take care of our O-linemen. Yeah, so it's been a ton of fun, but it is sometimes a little harder to sell. I hate when there's like that kid that's trending up. He's going to be a great O-lineman, and then he spends the summer and loses weight. Like, no, I'm going to be a tight end, coach. Like, cool, you lost 50 pounds this summer. Now you're useless to me.
Right.
What are you doing?
Right. And you get those kids sometimes too that fight it, and that they're like, oh, I only weigh 210 now. Okay, like, I care. Like, you're still gonna be a pulling guard. You're still gonna do all this stuff. Like, I don't give a rat's ass how much you weigh. Like, that's not the point. I played offensive line at a $190. You think I care how much you weigh? So it's they try to fight you, but it's inevitable.
It is inevitable. O-line is inevitable. I love it. What about you, Coach Simpson? What have you found ways to incentivize this?
Yeah, we have to do this quite a bit because a lot of times in our style of offense, when you're running a lot of pulling and a lot of movement, we're going to have at least one, if not two guys that are going to be severely undersized that on most other teams would play linebacker or might play like H-back and we're going to have to play them as guards, just kind of the strategy of what we're trying to do. So you do have to make that, like Coach said, you got to incentivize that. So we try to do a lot of other things. My wife will feed them, first time we get to 10 pancakes, they get pancake dinner, and we do alignment of the week. So we do it, an offensive player, a defensive player, a special teams, and alignment. And so make sure that they're getting taken care of. And there's been times that all five of them got it. So we're trying to do as much as we can to incentivize it. And we're trying to make it, and Coach brought up a good point, is getting better on social media because coaches are posting that stuff on social media. Like that's, we intentionally will post, hey, check out our guard right here doing this. Check out our tackle. Literally about 2 days ago on Twitter, we just ran a touchdown on counter. And our guard running second level down block stays on his path, and just smokes somebody. And I said, you got to be really, really intentional with bringing that stuff to the forefront of the whole team. And, to me, the teams that are really good, the linemen are getting a lot of praise. And generally the teams that are not as good neglect it. And it shows up pretty obvious. It shows up pretty obvious who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. Now, let's not be ignorant. You got a bunch of D1s out there on the edges. You're going to have a chance to win no matter how good your line is.
Yeah.
But for the 99% of everybody else, line play is going to make the difference of winning and losing.
I'll tell you something I saw a couple of years ago. So Creed Humphrey, of course, Oklahoma fame. I believe he's out of Shawnee, Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Went over and played for the Sooners for 3-4 years. Excellent center. Goes up to Kansas City Chiefs as a rookie, is starting. And of course, I mean, all he did, would they win like 2 or 3 Super Bowls since he's been there? He's just got a handful of rings. What he did was really cool, and I think helps us gain O-linemen, is he went and partnered with the local brewery there, and they made him his own beer. So he's like, so Creed Humphrey had, and of course, he's social media. He's admitted he's a beer drinker or whatever, so it's not a big deal. But for them to go in and give him his own recipe or his own beer and kind of brand it and whatever his favorite flavor and all that good stuff, like that's super neat that people are taking care of O-linemen at the next level. It's not just like Michael Jordan and the stud athletes, the super supreme being athletes that are getting these ads or these deals now. I guess Shaq had a shoe too. I know that he went a different route with his. His isn't $500. It's $5 at Walmart.
He made the Walmart shoe, yeah.
Yeah, he did it for a special reason. But there's somebody out there putting a thing out for an O-lineman, be like, O-linemen matter too. I wish Lane Johnson, some of those other big names would get a thing and be able to sponsor it. Like seems like every basketball player has a shoe that's a stud athlete.
Well, Duke made a shoe. Duke helped design a shoe for Nike for offensive linemen. I'm pretty certain. So that was a couple of years ago, because he's obviously completely crushing it with everything, offensive line wise now. But I want to say he helped Nike design an offensive lineman shoe, and I couldn't tell you which one. I know it's a Nike kind of one of those quarter top ones that I'm sure all your guys linemen wear now. But yeah, so he helped design that, and he does all that stuff. He's got his own beer too, which I gotta try to find some point. I don't know if they ship from Texas up to Wisconsin, but I gotta try to find that somewhere. So
for sure,
yeah, it's a renaissance, man. I always say that it's such an offensive line renaissance right now. We're in the age of offensive linemen, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. I was trying to look up the name of that cleat. I can't quite find it, but not important.
I saw another stat too, and I don't know how accurate it is. It's a Twitter stat. We're just making it up and throwing it out there, but that's probably where I found it. But it basically was along the lines of, after football, kids who played offensive line through high school or through college, and it showed how successful they ended up becoming in their future careers. And it was actually significantly higher, not just than non-athletes, but even than athletes that played every other sport. Like if you played every other sport, even football, and you were not an offensive lineman, it was lower. I don't know if it was income level. It was something along the lines of how these guys have become much more successful down the road. So we talk to our kids a whole lot about it and say that in every other sport on the planet, every kid has the opportunity to touch the football and get the limelight. Every other sport, you think about hockey, which is a puck, soccer, you think about basketball, you think about the main baseball, all the main ones. Every kid gets a chance to touch the ball. Every kid gets a chance to have the spotlight on them. There's only one sport that doesn't exist in, and that's football. Like, that's the only sport where you have 5 guys that literally are giving their body up, and they have zero chance of being put in the limelight or ever touching a ball unless something's fumbled.
Right. We all love a big man touchdown.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
All right, let's push on here for a minute, and we're gonna do, we're talking about weaknesses or issues we see as O-linemen, things that make it to film Saturdays, Sundays, Friday nights, whatever it is. But Kenny, we'll start here with you, and then we'll go on to Coach Schiff. We'll just alternate here. Kind of, what do you see that's the most overlooked? Whether that's a drill, a scheme, just an issue you're seeing in games that's the most overlooked.
I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself and our staff and things that we kind of go back and we look at. And I think we assume kids know too much, like on the offensive line. Like, we're working on a down block drill, and then I've got it. This is a sophomore. He's been in our program forever. So it's not like I can't blame somebody else because I'm around the junior high and I'm around the kids. I said, whoa, let's stop right here because he's just gotten whipped. We're trying to down block him over here, and he's just getting whipped across his face. So, hey, where do you think we're running the ball right now? He had no idea. He literally had no idea that if we were blocking down, we're probably running the ball outside of him. Like, we're trying to block the guy this way so that the play can go that way. And that stuck with me. It was about 4 years ago. And so now when we install it every day for spring, which spring is different, but we get them all out there and we walk through every single base run we have. Here's where you go. Here's your rule. Here's why this is your rule. And here's what we're trying to accomplish. So I think it lets the kids know what we're trying to get done. Because in my mind, you've also got, we're outmatched a lot up front physically, just size-wise, just outmatched. So there's going to be times where you're going to have to concede something. Like, you don't want to concede it. We want our kids to be tough and just snot-nosed and just, get after guys. That's what we want. But at some point, my 180 is down blocking a 330. And so they have to know, what is our non-negotiable here? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? Well, I got to get him sealed down so we can run outside. Like, would I like you to drive him into the other bench? Yes. But genetics sometimes says that's not going to happen. So what is the most essential thing I've got to do? Here's what I've got to do. Then you start your drill. Like, once they know this is what we're trying to accomplish, then you do your drills, because the drills should be teaching points of how to accomplish this. And I think should be different techniques you may have to use to get the job accomplished, whether that's a down block, a double team, pass pro, whatever you're teaching. Teach them the overall concept, what we're trying to do, what play this goes in. Then now when I teach them the drill, it ought to register with them, I hope, why we're doing what we're doing. And here's some different things you can do to have this work. So in my mind, not just an O-line, but specifically in O-line, I think that's the area where sometimes we miss the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Same question to you, Coach.
I think kind of going off of what Kenny just said too, a lot of times kids feel like if their guy's not on the ground, it's not a successful block. And so, that's one of the things that I really make sure they understand. And, focusing on their feet, focusing on their first step, focusing on their making sure they're not losing ground, anything like that. But also letting them know that sometimes just getting in the way is an okay thing. They're so hard on themselves. Well, I didn't pancake that guy. Well, I don't care. Like, did we score? Did we get 10 yards? Then it's a successful block. I don't need you to be, that's to kind of go back to one of your original questions, Kenny, about the ugly, the whole rivals stuff where guys are throwing and guys are like, that's not a pancake block. That's not, sorry, that's not, you're not, yeah, right. You're not doing your job. You're causing you're getting penalties because you're being selfish. So I think that's a little bit of a problem, is that just kids think they've got to be burying their guy to be successful. And like you said, Kenny, do we want that? Absolutely. But we know as coaches that that's not the end all be all. We know that sometimes it's going to be okay if you don't do that, as long as you're, like you were saying, as long as you're understanding the concept of the play, doing your job, staying in their way, have good technique, all of that. That's a struggle that I've seen a little bit more so than previously.
I don't know that I can necessarily bring up something that's like the most overlooked. I think that coaches, I don't even know how to say this without trying. I don't want to sound rude, but I feel like the fundamentals sometimes get skipped over a lot. We get into
Don't be rude, man. You ain't wrong.
You're on a podcast.
We get into blocking the big picture a lot more than the little things, right? And so, Tony, you kind of talked about that first step and where the hands are. But we've gotten to where it's like, hey, block that guy down. Well, what does that mean, right? Like, and I love the way that Kenny and Bo do it over there, switching which side your head can go on, but just having a fundamental way to down block and a fundamental way to pull, or if you're a zone guy doing that. I feel like a lot of guys have gotten into just blocking the big picture, and it's more about like what the running back sees than you doing this very fundamental sound job of getting from point A to point B. We like to think about O-line blocking as like angles and steps and where's your hand and timing. Like everything matters. I don't know. It just seems like sometimes a lot of that gets skipped, and it's more about, hey, as long as you block down, pull kick, pull wrap, I don't care about the rest of it. I don't care how ugly it is. Well, we could be a lot better if we just worried about how ugly it is. You know what I mean?
But you got to, that's the unfortunate side of it too right now, is that for every 3 really good technical offensive line coaches, there's 4 or 5 guys who don't know what the hell they're doing, who are just, hey, go coach the offensive line because you know how to play offensive football, and they don't. They're the ones that are screamers and yellers, and they're the ones that go block that guy. Move your feet, stay in front of him, instead of having a little bit more technical knowledge to them, and they're the ones that are kind of ruining it a little bit, who don't focus on the fundamentals.
I would say that there's more bad offensive line coaches than good offensive line coaches at the high school level as a whole, in general.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's a place I'd like to see a lot of improvement. I wish every team that, in my opinion, like that should be your first hire. That should be the best coach on the staff, should be the O-line coach. I realize that can't happen for everyone, but we've made a lot to do about having a quarterback coach on the team that can coach how to read and throw 35 routes, but we don't have a guy that can keep him upright. You know what I mean?
Right. It's funny you say that, though, because offensive line guys, like if I got a head coaching job, the first hire I would make would be a quarterback coach. So it's kind of,
but what you're doing,
right? And I'm confident that I could teach somebody to coach the offensive line. So it's kind of funny that you say that, though. But I think it just depends. Like I don't disagree with you at all. I think the offensive line hire is definitely a major hire. It's just a matter of who your staff is, where that comes, whether it's 1, 2. I mean, you'll get some guys watching this probably that'll argue and say the strength and conditioning coach is the most important hire.
For sure.
And so, I think it's definitely top 3. Your offensive line coach is definitely going to get hired a lot higher, quicker than your defensive line coach. Definitely a lot faster than your receivers coach. So I didn't want that to sound like a knock on defense. Sorry. So that's why I threw receivers in there. But it all depends just on the makeup of your staff, I think.
Yeah, I had a whole ranking list of this, and man, I get filleted if I put that on Twitter. But I put it out there, and it said, if you're a head coach and you're calling plays or you're a defensive coordinator, the other coordinator is the most important, because that guy's literally his own head coach at that side of the ball. Number 2 is O-line for me, and number 3 was strength and conditioning. So I agree a lot with Coach. Now, like Coach said, you look at me and you can tell, like, I can probably coach some skill football because I'm skinny and I couldn't have played offensive line. So if it was flipped where I was coach, where, okay, I can be offensive coordinator and obviously I played line, then yes, I would probably look into some kind of passing game guru, whether that was a quarterback coach or whatever. I think you got to balance those out. But I think somewhere in that world, if you're not the guy, that's got to be one of your first hires. And like I said, I'll hire 3 or 4 on my staff because if you lose one, they're really hard to replace.
Yeah.
We talked a couple weeks ago, and it may have even been on the other podcast. If it wasn't, I'm sorry, but just about how quarterback development from whatever the first age that kids play football to the NFL is down, right? You're getting these. It seems like there's way more busts at quarterback than there ever has been in the draft. It's the same way at the collegiate level. Like the guys with a good quarterback win a lot of games. High school is kind of the same way. Like if you can just figure out either how to put an athlete and let him run, or you have a great quarterback that someone's spent time and developed,
right?
Generally a parent sending him off to a side coach or whatever, you're going to win more games. But we've watered down football so much with the transfer portal and all this stuff because I got to be able to get my system in 4 weeks. I don't have time to develop this kid and add to the system for 4 years because he's going to leave and go somewhere else.
Right.
Now that's hit high school. Now you get in, you have a great quarterback, you develop him, and he leaves and goes somewhere else where I don't really know how they're recruiting him away. Some type of NIL, I guess. Oklahoma has NIL. So we've talked a lot about that on the quarterback side, but I think it's the same thing at O-line. Like we've killed development of O-linemen to simplify and make the game so easy. I guess we have to as coaches, kind of, and maybe that's controversial, but you've got to win or you're fired.
Right.
At the same time, you're not really teaching these kids. I'd love to be able to do is go out and call a zone play, a gap scheme play, pin pull, toss. I want my tackle running out there and blocking a corner. I want 2 guys to be able to pull and kick from the backside. Like, I just want to be able to do a lot of stuff, but we don't have time to put it all in, right? Like we can't. We don't have enough time with these kids. Multi-sport athlete and all that.
That might be playing devil's advocate. That might be why you get some of these guys at the collegiate level who are coaching that way. Because, if I'm a right guard and Kenny's a right tackle and we're both in the transfer portal and end up at Arkansas, well, we get there and our coach says, hey, we're going to run GT counter. We both know what we're doing, right? So I think that's a little bit probably why that could be happening where, offensive line, I mean, shoot, I just looked at probably 25 FCS or D2 offensive linemen that went group of 5 or group of 4 or power 4, whatever the hell it is now, went D1 because they're, they exceeded at that level. I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it still needs to be developed. I think it's hard, but it's a lot easier for me as an offensive line coach to tell a kid, hey, we're going to run power here than to try to say, hey, we're going to run zebra right 2 X scat 44 quick toss. You know what I'm saying? So, that's part of it. So anyway, sorry.
I got a question for you too. So we're high school coaches here. So, and I think I see this a lot with recruiting. So you see a lot of guys, they'll come in, they'll recruit, and I get it. You're going to play FCS, you're going to play Power 4, whatever we're calling that now. There are certain landmarks physically they're going to have to succeed. We would all agree with that. I'm not going to debate that. However, it makes me really frustrated when D2s or NAIAs want to pass on some of our linemen because they're 6 foot.
Oh,
and I said, no, this guy could start for you right now,
I've got a good buddy that I talk to all the time. He's a coordinator at the D2 level. We always talk about recruiting, and I said if I was at a D2 recruiting offensive lineman, I would take every 6 foot to 6'2" kid who can freaking play ball and just run rampant on people, because I know that he's going to be 6'2", maybe he's 260, but I know in a year in the weight room he's going to be 280, and he's going to be more athletic, faster than all these kids. I would build a dominant offensive line with those guys. And it's unfortunate. There's some coaches out there that even at the D2 level that say, oh, they got to be 6'5". If they're not 6'5", we're not going to look at them. Okay, well, that's great. I can pick out any school that had more success than you and look at all their offensive linemen, and I've gotten a ton of crap about that from college coaches. I've made some posts. I've gotten a ton of crap about that.
Well, we have 5 or 6 D2s in Arkansas. One of them won a national title. Guess which one of them recruits kids based on ability and not height?
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. And it's, I mean, you can look at even at the the FBS level. The group of four. There was that year Coastal Carolina had all those
Yep.
5'10", and their center was 5'9". Like the kid from North Carolina this last year who was 5'10". I've always said if you can play ball, you can play ball. I don't care. If you're a 5'6", 280 pounds, if you can play ball, go play ball, and somebody will find you and will put you there. So that whole thing, I'm with you on that, Kenny. I don't like the whole you got to reach these benchmarks. That to me is dumb.
It is tough. My older brother's, I don't know, 5'6" or 5'8" or something, and like he was a nose guard in high school and wrecked shop. I mean,
Yeah.
There was legit nights that he could slap the ball away on a snap before it got to the quarterback hand. You know what I mean? Like absolute monster on the defensive line. I don't know how many tackles and sacks but couldn't get a look because he's just too short. It's like, do you want someone who can play bully ball and beat up the offensive line, or do you want someone who's 6'3" and can bench press a lot? And by the way, he was like a 1,200 pound or 1,300 pound lifter in high school. I mean, he was just short. So
yeah, it's unfortunate because I feel like especially a lot of those D2s miss out on a lot of really good players.
For sure.
because they're so focused on they've got to fit this mold.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. It happens in the NFL too. Look in the NFL. They gave Will Campbell all that crap because his arms were a quarter of an inch too short or whatever. It's like, get out of here. Like, you watch this kid's tape. He can play. Stop.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, the NFL level is almost worse. As a Dolphin fan, I'm watching us draft this guy, and they go, "Well, he's 6'8", 340," and I'm watching his film from Houston, going, "He's terrible."
Right.
Like, we just gave this guy the second round pick because he's huge.
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
Let's get to our third part here, gents, and that's easiness to concepts that are easier to install or harder to install. Schiff, we're going to start with you because we know Kenny's going to talk about some gap scheme as easiest, being the Buck Sweep guy. So
I'm gonna tell him the same. I'm gonna tell you the same thing. I went a couple years ago. I got a head coaching job, and I leading up to it, I was kind of going through my mind like, what do I want to do? Do I want to teach these kids who have only played in a double wing, triple option offense for 15 years something new? Do I want to teach them gap scheme and zone scheme, or do I just want to teach them gap scheme? So we were all gap scheme. We didn't run any inside zone. I've got good buddies at the high school level who have won double-digit state championships who will not teach inside zone. So I'm a gap scheme guy. I think gap schemes are easier because it's if there's someone in your gap, block them. If there's not, go get a linebacker. Like, unless you're pulling. So I think gap schemes are super easy to teach. And it's more fun for linemen, truthfully. Like, I know somebody was just arguing that you can only run RPOs with zone. Well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You can only run play action, or play action works so much better with zone. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So gap schemes, I think, are second to none. Sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, Kenny, but I would much rather have gap schemes all day, every day.
Is waggle not the ultimate play action play, and it's definitely gap scheme, right?
Oh my God, we went a couple of years ago when I was calling offense last. We killed people with naked. We just run naked, and we'd sneak the H underneath in the flat, and the quarterback, like, could have just shoveled the ball to him, and he's running for 15, 25 yards. So I love all that stuff. Yeah, it's waggles, nakeds, boots, all that is fantastic to me.
Let's get to Mike D, the referee's question, real quick. What do you like for pulling guards on power? Do you skip pull? Are you bucket step? What are you teaching them?
I teach the skip pull first, but if they struggle, I let them drop. So I actually still teach a technique that I got from you might know this name, Kenny, from Joel Williams he was at Delta State at the time. And I was at a Glazier clinic in 2017 in Nashville, Tennessee, listening to Joel, or 2016, excuse me, listening to Joel talk about that. And he would, so if I'm playing left guard, essentially I'm dropping my inside foot, keeping my shoulders square, and just running for the backer. So you're not turning that was the old, when I first started coaching, it was all throw your arm and open your shoulders. And, well, if that linebacker feels quick, you're never going to get him, or you're going to be at a bad angle. So it became all about keeping square shoulders, which is why I taught the skip pull. But if you can drop that inside foot, and then just run basically. And so, you're taught, treat the play side guard and tackle, treat that double team like they've got matchbook on their butt and you're lighting the match. That's how close you are to it. And then it should take you right to them. So long story short, I teach the skip pull first. But if they struggle, then we play with it a little bit.
I spent some time over to Wasso, and they run a lot of like one back power. Is they major in that. That's their power play. There's no turning shoulders, right? As a guard, you kind of just slide a gap and a half and fill a gap.
Right.
So it's like watching them, and then you realize you tell every pulling player, you keep your eyes, or a rap player, right?
Yeah.
You're the swab guy. Keep your eyes on that linebacker. Okay, coach, how am I going to keep my eyes over there? But you're also telling me to throw an arm and turn and run over here,
right,
and then get back to that guy 7 yards that way. Like it doesn't.
Right.
So
I'd love to really, and I've kind of taken a dive in some stuff in this offseason, but I want to really get good at the North Dakota State, the shuffle pull. They run that with their A gap power. I dabbled in it in 2022 when we weren't very good, just because we weren't very good. But I would love to be able to kind of get that where now it's just shuffle, find gap, window, run. And now you're not doing anything. You're not losing ground. You're counting on those other guys to make sure that their down blocks are all there, that they're getting guys moved, and not getting any penetration. But I'd really like to be able to see the next group that I coach work on that and be good with that.
Question real quick on, so like I'm a duo guy, but I teach it as a gap scheme play.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you steal it that way, that you can teach it as gap scheme? You don't have to say, hey, I have a zone scheme installed.
Well, it is a gap scheme. So anyone listening that argues as such is again, I need to make a shirt that says duo is a gap scheme.
Duo is a gap.
It's 100% a gap scheme. It's
power's an A gap play, and duo is a gap scheme.
It's 100% a gap scheme. I teach it as a gap scheme. That's one of the things I was talking about earlier with kind of being humble in my old age. I bit a big bullet in 2023 and went under center. I can go back and find the tweet from like 2016 or 17 where I said I will never ever take a snap from under center again, and I stuck to that for a while. But we were a heavy gap scheme team. We were a heavy duo team, and it wasn't hitting the way I wanted it to hit from shotgun, from sidecar. I didn't want to teach pistol just because I like pistol, but I wanted not to. And so we went under center, and it hit big, and I can make you a cut up of about 10 or 12 50+ yard touchdown runs off of under center duo. Just the kid that we had ran it well, knew how to read it well, and our lineman understood how to block it well. So it's 100% a gap scheme.
Absolutely. All right, Kenny, on to you. What do you find the easiest and hardest schemes to install? And you've done both, right? You've been a zone scheme guy before.
Yeah, we try to do a little bit of, we probably more duo, but more zone-ish type stuff. I would say that it's much harder to teach that. I mean, anytime you're teaching guys I don't know if it's me as a teacher or kids or what, but when I'm teaching, it could be this or this.
Right.
Usually it ends up being not either, and it just doesn't go well. We don't even double team our offense anymore. We're not running power like y'all are, but I would teach power, and I said it looked like we were playing freeze tag. Like 4 hands went on this guy, and we let him go, and we both went to linebacker and
Right.
lost. So we've kind of just given up on all that. So I'd say gap is obviously going to be easier. Coach did such a good job. I'm not going to go anymore. I mean, he did a good job with it. I think it's very clear cut what we're trying to accomplish. I do think the most difficult thing is probably teaching outside or inside zone. I think that's probably why I don't do it. I think it takes a lot of time. And I think it's just easier and simpler at the high school level just to run pin and pull instead of outside zone and some version of power or what we would call like belly or power insert, something in that world instead of zone. It's just quicker and easier and cleaner.
I think, like you said too, it's expensive, right? Like some of these schools, especially high schools, that talk about they teach. Now, if they can do it, great. If they've got the time for it, great. But like, we run inside zone, outside zone, power and counter. Well, that's a lot. Like you just said, like you better. Your offensive line guy must have an hour a day of indie where he can just work the ever loving crap out of it. Or it's like it's a school in Texas. It's a school where they have 4 hours of football a day and can devote a little bit more time to it. But it is, like you said, those inside zone and outside zone both can be very expensive and can take up a lot of time. And it's like you said too, it's a lot of ifs and buts, where gap scheme, is there someone in your gap? Okay. If not, then you're doubling to backer, unless you're pulling. So it's a lot more simplicity to it.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate just because you both picked gap scheme, and that's okay. I'm probably truly am more gap scheme related. I'm a GT counter, GH counter guy. That's just where I've kind of hung my hat. But I also think there is some simplicity. You just said it. If there's someone in your gap, if not, then you double to backer. Well, that's the same way we're teaching zone.
Mm-hmm.
If there's someone in your zone, block him. If not, work to help the next guy for 3 steps and then go to backer. Either you're going to double him up to backer or you're going to go to backer.
I think the double team is the hard part.
The double team is really, really hard, right? And
that's where that's where the zone and outside zone gets tough versus gap scheme, because it's who's coming off. Well, it could be him. It could be him. It could be neither. Where in gap scheme, a lot of times you kind of know by the direction of the play, more than likely, even if we get a double team, probably coming off with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you make great points, and I'm probably more gap scheme than anything. I think if you pick either one, you're not wrong. Mixing is pretty difficult, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to teach your kids, you got to be able to down, pull kick, pull wrap, double to backer inside, double to backer and change the angle and go outside. Like there's a lot going on there, but I don't know that if you picked either one, you're necessarily wrong.
Correct.
And
no, definitely not.
Once you learn hip to hip and drive this guy and make a linebacker commit, boy, life gets pretty easy for the zone scheme guys, right? Just like us. Hey, you're going to play side, you're blocking down, backside, you're pull kick, pull wrap, whatever your rules are for your guys. It gets really, really easy. You know what I mean?
I don't want to digress us into zone versus power, but I would say for the line, you're 100% right, Daniel. Like zone or gap, you can be successful in both. Here's what makes it hit. Do you have the running back to run zone?
They can read it.
Because that guy makes the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And
if you have a guy that's just going downhill, gap scheme, because he knows what gap he's going in.
Right.
Ish. Put your hand on the guard's butt or the tackle or whoever your swab man is and go. Right. Versus zone, there's no one to follow into the hole. You got to read it and make some kids wrong. You do get that kind of optionish feel to football, though, right? If they fill D, C, B gap, cool, we'll go A. But, so there's plus or minus. What do you want to do?
Yeah. It's like you said, too, like it's because I've taught zone plenty. Like I remember my first year coaching, that first off season, the head coach came to me and was basically like, hey man, I want to be a zone team. Let's install it. And so we did. I was that guy that if I had an hour of indie during summer, like summer 2-a-days, 50 minutes of it was spent on double teams and just working. Hey, guard center, guard tackle, front side, back side, everything, double team, double team, double team, double team. So they got good at it, but it took a lot of time. We didn't run any other plays. We were a zone team and only a zone team. So, you don't get to devote that time like we talked about to the other things. So you're either in it or not.
For sure. Mike D asked, with your shuffle pull, do you back your backup for timing? Does it take longer? How's your shuffle pull work?
I have no idea. I've never done it. I don't know enough about it to give you an answer. I'm sorry.
Love it. All right, let's the last part here. Teaching progression. We'll break it down. Kenny, we'll start with you. Kind of what is your teaching progression for? And obviously you're a buck and pin pull guy.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our stuff, Coach Gould's the expert, so I hate to be the one that speaks for him. But like the next coach Coach Shiffman's going to be a lot better than I am at this stuff. So, but I would say that for me, I look at the whole picture first. I think it's important you show your kids what are we trying to accomplish, and then I kind of go big, small, big. So big, what are we trying to do? Small, we can now work whatever technique we're trying, whether that's a down block, a skip pull, a pull. We're going to put those guys. One thing that we're probably different than almost every other offensive line team is this part. We will split them out. So like if we're working some kind of multi-function play, whether that's counter or that's pin and pull or buck or whatever that might be, we'll have the pullers going with the backs, and we'll have the guys that are down block, base block, whatever, working with our tight end wing, because a lot of times that's the same type of block. But the idea is still the same. Big picture, show them how they do whatever skill you're requiring for them to do, and then you put them all back there in live action, and you hope that they learned. That's kind of how we want to teach it.
Yeah. I'm not that different. I probably I go big, small, big, kind of like you do. I don't spend as much time on the first big though. So I'll talk about kind of what the construct of the play is, and then I'll go. A lot of times, more often than not, I go backside to front side, and I almost go per man. If you're the backside tackle, here's what you're doing. If you're the backside guard, here's what you're doing. Center, front side, guard, front side tackle. And then we kind of work it, and then I'll start tweaking the defense a little bit. So kind of give them the if this guy's here, what's your answer? If this is here, what's your answer? So very similar to you guys in that. I just don't spend as much time on the initial big. I would rather have them focus on that, just the box that they're in, the tackle box, and not worry so much about the overhang backer in space, not so much worry about the hey, what if this safety rolls down and fills here? Like, that's not our job. Our job are these 5 to 6 guys, depending on how many guys we have in the box. Let's focus on that and get really good at that, and then we'll worry about the other stuff when that time comes from the receivers coaching, quarterbacks coaching, things like that.
I can definitely see the benefit to both. I've leaned more into Kenny's big, little, big, because I think the why is important. One, because our kids are asking us all the time now, why, Coach, why are we doing it? Why are we doing this drill? Why are we running this play? And you better know your whys.
Yeah.
And so I think it is neat to let them know. Kenny's big on, and we kind of started the podcast with this, like your down block doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to put that kid on the sideline. You just got to be in his way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's part of the why, right? Like if I know Buck's going to hit a little wider because of this alignment, I just kind of have to get in this kid's way. So I don't have to win this. I don't have to get a pancake here to have a successful rep. I do also understand the need for more fundamentals. I start my teaching, and I talked about being technical to start with all this. And when we're talking about what's overlooked, I want super clean fundamentals. Those first 3 steps, those better be right. And I don't care if you're a zone guy, a gap guy, whatever you are. There's an angle and a precision and where your hands actually need to be, not just on the guy, where on the guy, right? Mm-hmm. Are we reaching for the bottom of the V in his jersey? Are we trying to punch a hand through his rib cage, rip his heart out? Like, what is your coaching point? How are you telling kids to get their hands on people? Because those things matter to us. That kid can't beat us in certain places. Kind of the big, little, big thing, right? Give him the why. You just can't get beat here. And so that's kind of where we start. We want to start, obviously, stances, and I like 1-step, 2-step, 3-step. That's kind of my teaching progressions. I go through that and then just teach those angles. The angles have to be precise. And I think you can beat pretty much anybody you play on the O-line if you've got a great angle and your hands are where they're supposed to be, and those first 3 steps are great. And then we just play football. I can't remember who the coach was. Joe and I had a guy on many moons ago that said, get ran over slowly was like they're
Tony Franklin. Yeah.
May have been their quote for pass pro, but honestly, in gap scheme, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Get in his way and get ran over real slow, and then we're going to be okay. Let them fast kids run off and do their fast kid things. So that's just kind of where I've gone with it. All right, man, I think we've came to the end of it here, boys. We're right up against it. Coach Simpson, why don't you give us our lesson on what not to do as a coach?
Good. I'm going to let Coach kind of comment at the end of this one, too. So, each week we do what not to do as a coach. This one is this. And here's, let me give some background of this. Most offensive line coaches that I've had are really good. They're also usually the smartest or pretty close to the smartest guy on the staff. And I don't mean to just butter up Coach Shiffman because he's on here, but that's usually kind of how it is. They're usually a guy who's really
patting himself on the back right now.
Bo is. Yeah, Bo is. But here's your problem when you are that guy. You need to coach to the lowest IQ in the room, because there's times I think our offensive line coaches, every coach, but we're talking offensive line guys here, can make playing a difficult position more difficult because we use words like surfaces or, whatever we're using, all these big words, and you're going, man, that kid, he's got like a D in my world geography class. We got to go right and left on his wrists.
Yeah.
He's got to play. So I think that's kind of my biggest thing here is let's make playing offensive line as simple as we can make it. Here's your rule. Here's what you have to get done. Here's some tips that can help you, but let's not make it if this and that and if and that and if and that and all these different things in there. Because here's what I've learned. Guys that will touch the ball are willing to learn whatever you want to teach them. Like they'll learn to line up in 95 different formations because they might get to touch the ball. If I'm an offensive lineman and I'm not going to touch the ball, let's keep their world really, really, really simple. And then we can adjust everything on the back end to kind of make it work. Make playing the O-line fun. Make playing the O-line simple. Continue to praise those guys. Be really careful you don't overcomplicate things because that's a difficult position already.
Yeah, sure. I agree. I always tell guys, if I can understand it, you can understand it because I'm teaching it that way. And then I think just to understand, offensive line coaches need to be patient, myself included. I'm terrible at it, but if we can get something out of our least talented guy in the group, because we're the island of misfit toys, right? Like we get the weak, we get the slow, we get the poor, we get the hungry. If we can get something out of those least talented guys and they can understand it, we're doing a good job as coaches. So be patient. Like you said, Kenny, make it simple, and just enjoy what you're doing and make the position fun.
Absolutely. Beef eaters, baby. Real quick, I want to talk about our sponsors. We want to talk about Ace Sports. If you haven't already, contact Mark Bridges, mark.bridges@acesports.com. Let him get in and talk to your admin today. Teambuilder.com/practice. That's their whole new thing. They're not getting out of the strength conditioning. They're going to keep working that world. They want to help you organize your practice. Once again, I think the coolest thing about it is you can put up videos of you explaining a drill, a diagram of a drill, last year's film of a drill, and teach a new coach. You can give them a whole drill notebook online, then go home and study. Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Look, coaches got some great stuff over there. You're just putting in data as the plays happen on Friday night. You get 1 or 2 series under your belt, and now you've got real-time data to kind of game plan on, right? Whether you're scouting, you're scouting what the other team's going to do on third down, you have answers to what they're trying to do. And kind of the kickers, it replaces all of your stat inputs and data inputs on Huddle on Friday night or Saturday morning or whenever you do your film, because all of it translates or transposes right over into Huddle, and you've got your film already tagged up. Last but not least, Capital Varsity Sports. If you haven't talked to Michael Holes, he's the guy he's going to take all your helmets, going to take all your shoulder pads, whatever you need. Doesn't matter about manufacturers. He's going to get them all fixed and get them back to you. You don't have to send off your Rydell's over to Rydell, your shuts to shut. You ain't got to do that anymore. Let Michael come in and take care of you. I do have an email. We'll put it. It'll be in the big ad. Check out the big ads on the digital side when we put all of them in later. I don't remember the email right this second. Talk to Michael Holes. He'll get you hooked up. All right, social media, Coach Schiff, man. If somebody wants to reach out to you and talk a little O-line play, where are they going at?
Yeah, Twitter, you can find me at Coach Shiffman, Shiffman. That's pretty much me everywhere if you want to find me. Always open to talk. Always love to talk ball and help out any way I can. But again, you can find me there on Twitter, spending too much time and talking about too many things, football or non-football.
Are you the good, the bad, or the ugly of Twitter?
I like to think I'm good. I know there's plenty of people that will argue that I'm bad. I don't think I'm ugly. But there's plenty of people that think I'm bad, but I like to think I'm still far enough on the good.
Well, that works. Before we get off it, make sure you tell Coach Dingus it's his turn to get back on the podcast. So
I will. He's always busy in the spring, man. He's got track. He does a good job coaching track and field, and I know I just saw his daughter's playing softball, so he's doing dad stuff, and he's still busy losing weight, man. He's lost like 70 pounds or something. He's looking like
let's
a new
go.
Man. Yeah. So
Jack
I'll tell him
weight loss.
Huh?
Love it. That's good, man. Love it.
Yeah.
Love to hear people are getting healthy.
Oh yeah. He's needed it for a while. So love you, Jack.
You can reach out to me at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. I'll tell you all to go over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. That's where I'm helping coaches do all things coaches need. You need to figure out how to make new t-shirts. How do you do ad sponsors? How do I develop a practice schedule? Whatever it is, whatever you need something, I can help you out. Social media is a big thing nowadays that a lot of these coaches aren't good at. I can help you there. Just organizing and setting up your social media and providing content be good for you. Kenny, where can we find you at, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So add FB Coach Simpson at Twitter, FB Coach Simpson at Gmail for an email, or FBCoachSimpson.com. Lots of free stuff over there and stuff that helps me pay for my kids to go to college. So either way you want to go, I'll take it.
The gun tee system is over there, which you all need to get into. Everyone,
except for Coach Shiffman, because he's not allowed in the wing tee world.
I run plenty of wing tee principles nowadays. So
I know.
I just still like to cause a rift about it.
There you are. Podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod. We want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.